Hello everyone, checking back in the cryptocurrency space. So we have a big red day today, a lot of pullback, a lot of dump, and I'm back to watching Bitcoin as the sector leader and looking for clues there. And it's been going well so far in terms of finding those clues. But the clear bear break here, this is the 4-hour time frame. We had our double bottom to the penny at 22.50. We bounced off of that level to the penny again for a very short-term bounce and then collapsed and broke that support. So the bears are in absolute full control. There were a couple red flags last night, and to be honest, that's why I didn't do a video last night, just because of how uneventful things were going with volume. There was a period of time where I was in an LTC trade, and my position was 100% more than the total volume that we had seen in the previous 25 minutes of trading. So that's a huge red flag of a lack of liquidity. And along with that, not only is that the case, but we have these bots trading coins back and forth with each other. So that tiny volume is even some of that artificial. So nobody was trading cryptocurrencies last night. I went all US dollars into the end of the day and slept through the night and had no interest in doing anything bullish in this market condition where the volume was just not present. So we got our bounce on, well, I want to do a trade highlight first just to show, had a nice little trade play out yesterday. I took Ethereum 196 to 206. And just want to show my thought process of that and how it ended up playing out. So what was going on with Ethereum at the time is we were dumping and we were seeing significant pullback. This is the 5-minute time frame, and the trend shifted. As soon as this low broke, this low was down at 208.60. As soon as that level broke, we had a lower high and then a lower low, and that's the shift of the trend. Until then, we had a nice bounce playing out. As soon as that happened, that shifts our mindset and lets us know, okay, we are no longer playing with the trend. We need to be quick with our profit taking, and we need to be a lot more picky with our entries. So the bear break happened. We had a lot of downside action, a lot of pullback, and we saw really some oversold conditions where the 5-minute RSI dipped down into the teens, and then it double dipped back down under 30 again. And I'm looking right now at 1 p.m. Eastern yesterday, about 1:09, and the trade that I was going to highlight here was one that occurred right here. So what happened, we had a very solid bounce off of the low, and we went from 193 all the way up to 202. So that's a $9 bounce in 25 minutes. And what it did was break these lower highs. So whenever I see a lower high and lower low pattern, see the lower highs break, I instantly shift my mindset and say, okay, the most likely scenario is we're going to start seeing some higher lows and higher highs because we broke the lower high pattern. There was some decent volume behind that move, and it was a move to the upside that was significant. So I believe I made my initial entry once this bounce started going through because of the buying at the ask. I missed selling at the top here, and we did pull back significantly. But what that allowed me to do while being in my position, and I was still pretty comfortable even though we pulled back very significantly. We pulled back 202 all the way down to 194. But what this allowed me to do was say, okay, I'm holding my position. I'll exit if we break the lows here of 193. I got in at 196. I'll take a $3 loss if that does play out. But I'm going to let everybody know in the chat room that this is a good opportunity to enter. And why I liked this opportunity to enter, not only did it break the lower high pattern, so I was anticipating a higher low, but this move pullback, this was fake to me. And this 20 minutes right here is what I'm talking about. This 20 minutes of red, look at the volume behind this move. I'm zooming in here. So look at the volume here. There is no volume on the 15 minutes moves to the downside here. So that was not scaring me at all. There was just no bid support, but I was very confident that we would see this 193 level hold because all it would take is just, even 100 ETH would put a stop to the bears that were coming in here. So we did see a volume spike here right at the end, but a lot of that was bulls loading the dip as well. And it doesn't show that on the lower wick, but if you were watching the order book, you could see that the bids were starting to build and the bulls were starting to buy the ask. And that's that little climax. It certainly isn't a climax to the previous action, but just with that little half-hour window, that was a climax of the most bear and most bull volume coming in at the same time. And then the bulls showed up, and we saw a really nice move. And then the uptrend was underway, and we went higher lows and higher highs for the next few hours. So we topped out here at 207, and I exited at 206. And let's look in the chat room here. This is from, let's see here. This is here on the right, this thread. So 3:09 p.m. Eastern yesterday, ETH, no bear volume on this 20-minute pullback, potential bottom fishing entry with an exit if 193 breaks. So what that means is I'm pointing out the lack of bear volume, the clear stop loss level. I call it a bottom fishing play because we're fishing against a support. We're looking for an entry, and if the support level that we're playing off of breaks, that's our exit. So looking for an entry here in the mid 190s, and we exit if 193 breaks, because that means we hit a lower low, and the bears prove that they have still full control. So that was the setup. Low bear volume on the 20-minute, clear stop if 193 breaks, and that's a low-risk trade. You're getting in, and you're risking about $2 to $3. And we can see I already entered at 196, and then there's people, you know, trying to determine if they want to enter as well. So that's how it played out, and it ended up playing out really nicely. And my sell queue was up here, seeing that we were a bit extended to the upside on the 5-minute. But what it really was, to be honest, I sold, number one, because it's a $10 gain, and I'll lock that in every time. But the GDAX exponential moving averages on the hourly time frame, I really like those signals. And I don't know if it's because everybody's looking at that GDAX chart while they're trading or what, but those supports and those resistances really act well. When the price is above them, they usually bounce off that support, and when the price is below, they usually reject from support, or from resistance, I should say. So we had already rejected from that exponential resistance at one point previously back here on a bounce attempt, and then we rejected again right at 207. So I sold at 206 knowing we were about to hit that resistance. I was not confident in the volume that the bulls would able to see continuation and get over that level. And here's that move right here. Actually, let me find that move. Sorry, I switched time frames here and it's screwing everything up. So that was back here, and there's our higher low right there. So wasn't confident in this volume, so looking at it on the hourly time frame, not a ton of bull volume, and we didn't break the lower high pattern. So here we are at 207, and it's just another lower high compared to 213. I was not confident that we were going to see another $7 to the upside to break that level, so thanks for the $10 profit and exiting. And then this trading right here is where I gave up on the night, right there, where there's no volume. We had volume of 2K, 1K in an hour. 1,000 ETH in 1 hour is nothing, and we just traded straight across. So I'm saying, okay, bulls are not buying anything. The bears have momentum at this point. I don't want anything to do with cryptocurrencies over tonight. And it ended up holding out overnight, but then this morning we saw the dump follow through. So where this stands now on the daily time frame, a couple other bearish signals. Number one, we had an inside bar on the daily time frame. We didn't confirm the bullish reversal candlestick from 2 days ago. That was a red flag. We still had an inside bar to be watching. As soon as we broke 193.07, that level I was pointing out for that smaller term trade, that was a bearish break of the inside bar. And now here we are $8 lower. So that was another bearish signal. We have not seen 2 green days in a row in ETH now in almost 3 weeks at this point. So the bears are in complete control. And what I'm liking about this setup, number one, because I'm all cash is why I'm liking it, but I want to see cryptocurrencies get beat up really bad over the next 2 weeks, to be completely honest. And I'm sorry for people that are holding positions that have to deal with that, but I want to have an awesome entry opportunity August 1st. I really believe, as I said in the last video, I really believe that what we're seeing in the past couple of weeks and what we're going to continue seeing is people selling out of fear of August 1st and the potential split and fork and all that. So I do not fear that fork. I'm not going to be in a position as it happens, but I am going to have my finger on the buy trigger, waiting to buy this dip and waiting for everybody to say, oh, it's not the end of the world. I want back in. And I think there's going to be a volume surge to the upside when that does occur. But the lower we go up until August 1st, the stronger the bounce is going to be, in my opinion. So I'm going to keep, flipping some trades here very, very minimally and being very, very cautious and very, very picky and just patiently waiting. We got another almost 2 weeks to go, a little bit less, but I am looking forward to what I feel is going to be a really nice opportunity. And I'm not sure which I'm going to play yet. It depends on the setup. Might play Ethereum, might play Bitcoin. We'll see. But it is Bitcoin leading the way to the downside right now. I am noticing that the breaks that occur in Bitcoin are translated into weakness in these other two out of the big three. So let's look at the 4-hour time frame where we had that nice trade and we ended up hitting the target. Well, we didn't hit the target, but we came shy by $1.12. That's good enough for me. That was our target. And to be completely honest, I picked that target out from a couple things. First off, I was looking at a downtrend resistance line on this 4-hour time frame, and I was estimating, and it's actually, I want to start it back further, but this downtrend resistance on this 4-hour time frame was a guide for me to estimate where I thought that our oversold bounce could reach. And so what I did is I put this line up here and I said, okay, we're down here at the lows. We're trying to see a bounce play out. If this bounce does play out and we get our bull MACD cross that we're looking for, By the time we get up to this resistance level, it's going to be right at about 230. And that's just me using estimation, how long the bounce is going to take to play out, where the price will be. And we didn't actually hit that downtrend resistance line. We pulled back just below that 230 level, but it did end up right about where anticipated. It was at 233 when we hit our high. So that was just a bit of, an educated guess looking at that. And that's where I put my level. And another thing about that, where I put my level as a target, was it would stay in a downtrend. It didn't require any kind of trend change on this 4-hour time frame to see that move from 175 up to 230. So that was another reason that I picked that target, because it doesn't take a whole trend change and huge bull volume coming in to reverse things. We can still stay in a downtrend and hit that target. So we ended up hitting that target. Here we come back down to our lows. Again, Bitcoin is already broken the lows that we've seen on this pullback, but Ethereum has not. So we still have 181 and 175.56 support. If we break those levels, which we could absolutely break those levels because of how much time is left before August 1st, which I do believe will be a potential turnaround catalyst. But I'm looking down at, after 175, I'm looking at 167, 159.59, and a very important level at 115.67. We could absolutely hit 115.67 sometime in the next 2 weeks. So we need to be aware of that, because the bulls are doing absolutely nothing to change this trend. So that's why I want to be all cash in this situation. And ideally, I would love to be short, but don't have the setup, don't have the margin capabilities at this point, and don't feel like lying to get them. So going to hold off and just wait patiently and potentially shift some money around. I keep talking about going to the MJ sector. I am withdrawing funds to be ready for the MJ sector. We're getting closer and closer to a trend change there, to be looking at a long-term entry position, looking 1 to 3 years out at least, and want to put some money to work there as well. But what we're looking at here is bearish action, and the question right now is, can we hold? Can we hold the support of 175.56? And right now, not a lot of confidence that the bulls can hold that level. We'll have to see how it plays out. So let's look at the longer term time frame for Bitcoin, and then I'll get to Litecoin and Golem here. And the weekly time frame for Bitcoin, we got our low of the pullback, 2050. That is the support level to be watching. We have lower highs and lower lows now. Breaking this level of 2258 was important. And now we're looking down at 2050. If we break 2050, we could have a much more significant pullback on our hands. So 2050, 2000, and then I'm looking down at 1913, and then just the low of every week is really a support level. But in terms of the overall chart and where we are coming from on this weekly time frame, we could pull back to 1200 and still be in an uptrend. I'm not going to say we are going to pull back to 1200. I'm saying if that were to occur, it would still hold this higher low pattern, and the bulls would still be in complete control on the long-term multiple-year time frame outlook. So this is very, very limited consolidation considering the top at this point. We have, in the past 5 weeks, we've given back the last 2 weeks of upside. That's it. So we have another 8 weeks, and because we shot to the upside, we did not establish much support here on the way down. So if we break 2050, we could very easily see another 10% off very, very easily. So that's what I'm looking at on Bitcoin. We just need to be cautious and aware of these scenarios. And if you are long and not trading the intraday, then you need to be ready to stomach this red, because it's going to get red as it has already. And this is a monthly chart. Consolidation is needed. And it might be more significant consolidation. All depends on 2050. So let's get into Litecoin. I had another trade in Litecoin. I want to highlight that because it was a bit of damage control, because I made a poor entry at first, and then I was able to get myself out of that trade with profit, much like I did on this ETH dump. And not to toot my own horn, but I am proud of myself for the way I've been managing my trades, because that's a little bit of a weak suit for me. So I'm not a perfect trader. There's better traders out there. And I'm always trying to work on my game, obviously. So when I'm in scenarios that do not benefit me, I keep a cool head. I have no panic. I'm completely calm on these trades, even when I'm in the red, and just managing to get myself out of the hole. So it took me 10 trades over 2 days for Ethereum, but ended up with profit there. And there was a similar shorter term scenario here for Litecoin. So Litecoin, this dump that happened this morning, was a move that was very significant to the downside. And I was watching this back here. This is when I made the initial trade, and I was looking at this new leg to the downside. So this is a descending triangle pattern where you've got your horizontal support line, and then lower highs, the top of a bounce. We touch it again, a lower high. We touch it again, a lower high, and then we get a bear break. And so then we saw very oversold conditions very quickly. And at this point, I was already in playing this 43 support. There was a big bid there. It was something like 5,000 LTC. So I was fairly comfortable, and I made an initial position at 53.18. I exited half of my position on this candlestick because I didn't like the way things were going. And actually, I didn't exit half. I exited 20%. So I got half filled of my position. Sorry, I'm just recalling the trade right now. Half filled of my position at 43.18. I sold 20% of that half position for a slight profit on this candlestick. And then another leg to the downside. 5-minute RSI was oversold. 15-minute RSI was oversold at that point, pretty significantly oversold. We were down under 20 on the 15-minute time frame. Hourly RSI was just getting oversold. I would have been much more comfortable if the hourly RSI had already been oversold once I got trapped in my position. So did not have a stop loss level in terms of a price that I would just bail on, because I had 60% of my stack ready to average down. And I knew that once the hourly RSI got oversold and once the 15-minute RSI was down under 20, that I would be able to salvage with a 60% remainder of my cash getting in and being able to lower my cost average significantly to be able to exit. So once we got that break, we saw a move to the downside, and we had a really nice setup right here where there was a big wall of resistance at 41.50. Someone put 5,000 LTC at 41.50. And we were extremely oversold at that point. The RSI was down at 15 on the 15-minute time frame. So I'm watching this wall, and I have my market order filled out for all of my remaining cash, and I'm just sitting there waiting. And I see it start to get chipped away very minimally, 60, 80. And once I start seeing triple digits, I pay attention more. Start to see a couple 100, 200 chipping away, dropping it down from 5,000 to 4,500, 4,000. As soon as it hits 3,000, I make my entry with the last of my position. I believe it was somewhere a little over 1,000 LTC, so I chopped down that wall significantly. And then after I made my buy, it took about maybe 15, 20 seconds until the rest of it got wiped out because big volume came in to eat up that wall. You can see the volume on this candlestick. And so then at that point, once I made that entry, my exit or my cost basis at that point, with 60% at 41.50 and 40% at 43.18, that was at about 42.35 was my break even at that point. And on the way back up, we got up to 42.58 on this first candlestick. I sold about a third of my position, break even, just to take some weight off. And then I looked for profit, and I got some profit, and I ended up green on the trade because we bounced all the way up to the 42.70s. So I exited in the 42.60s. Nothing big, but to go from a red loss where things look pretty bleak, but to be able to rebuy in, average down, and manage that trade and get out, I just, I'm not going to be greedy. I would have been perfectly happy with break even, but I saw we had a bit of momentum, so I moved up my orders a little bit. But I definitely wanted to be out because this downtrend is nowhere near changing. So just a quick flip, and that's a little slap in the face for me as a reminder, okay, be more cautious. These RSI levels mean something different on this downtrend. They can get a lot more oversold, and they can stay there longer. So a little quick slap on the wrist and a reminder, but all in all worked out. So on the daily time frame here, we see lower highs and lower lows continuing. The key level on LTC is 37.15, and that's not the end of the world. If that breaks, end of the world would be 33.38, and not the end of the world, obviously, but that would be the last thing that I would want to see if I were bullish in this position. So 33.38 must hold, and as of right now, 40 psychological is support, and then I'm looking at 37.15. And the bears are in complete control. We look at the 4-hour time frame. We are still holding our move from before. Actually, I take that back. We are not. We broke that back here. So both Bitcoin and Litecoin have broken their lows from the 4-hour bounce that did end up developing 2 days ago. Ethereum still has not broken that level yet. So Ethereum right now, all things considered, is still the strongest of these three in terms of looking back and still having these supports intact. So we'll see if the bulls can continue to hold them. At this point, we're getting so oversold that I'm just looking at the 4-hour time frame and waiting for it to get oversold again, because we've broken most of the supports, all of them for Bitcoin and Litecoin in terms of the previous action back here. And I'm looking for another opportunity where I can be more comfortable buying and holding for more than just a 5-minute, 10-minute flip if this 4-hour RSI does get back oversold. So ETH 4-hour RSI is 35, still a ways to go. LTC, we are at 35, still a ways to go. And Bitcoin, we are at oversold now. So now it's time to go back and find that next support. And I'm looking down here at 22, which has broken, and 2050. So if we were to get to 2050, on this pullback without any bounce, this RSI is going to be prime for a bounce off of that level. It's going to be down in the mid to low 20s, which is where we bounced off of on that last move. And we saw a move from 22.50 up to 24.16. So that's where we stand now. Checking in on Golem, one of those. We're dumping. And we saw a weak bounce attempt, and it's continuing to the downside. But what we need to see here is declining bear volume, which is what we are seeing, a higher low, and then the bulls have to show back up and break 13. Let's see here. It's 13,466. Break that level to get the higher low and higher high and try and reverse this trend. This is a significant pullback at this point. We've taken out a bunch of support levels. If you are still in this position, it's because you're long and you're looking at fundamentals and you're ideally looking 6+ months out. I do still have a position. It's all profit from other cryptocurrency trades, and I have scaled back that position back in the move here before we broke down and broke this support of the 16s. So I have limited my risk, but at this point, it's a number where I'm perfectly fine sitting on that for 6 to 12 months and maybe even longer. We'll see how it all goes. And just a long-term investment, because you think about where we're at in the terms of this space, and nothing has been implemented and nothing has been generally accepted. And this is still the very, very early stages of the game. Now we reached, the general masses on this hype and this move, and thanks to CNBC and the news articles, we got out there in terms of the price action that was going on. But in terms of the fundamentals and adoption and actual implementation of smart contracts and all this, we are in the infancy stages. So if Golem were to get accepted or to be widely used, it would we can still see hundreds of percent from where we currently stand over the next couple of years. It all depends on the the adoption, and I'm finding out more and more it depends on these coins and their marketing. Marketing is very important, and that's a significant factor as well. But obviously, they need to release their working product of Brass, and they need to, I do believe they will be added to Coinbase eventually. I do believe these Ethereum little side coins here, altcoins, are going to be added. It's just a question of when. Right now, I'm looking at Q4. Certainly not banking on it. That's not make or break for me. That would be really nice. But, like I said, this is a potential for multiple years. I know there are competitors and other ones out there. I like that Golem is at the forefront of this space of the shared, computer network. There are competitors, but I do believe that there is the most, Golem is the most well-known in my opinion, and that is important. And that's what, name recognition is very important in terms of where people are going to put their money. So we'll see how it all plays out. I am still long. Let's see what we look like on the weekly time frame here. So we pulled back significantly. Bulls need to form a higher low, trying to form a bullish reversal candlestick, a hammer on this weekly time frame, and after a month of downside, need to pull back up and try and recover a bit. So again, I'm not really too concerned. Worst case scenario, if Golem goes to 0 and never trades again, I will give back at this point about, maybe 8 or 9% of my total cryptocurrency gains. So that's a risk I'm willing to take. So I appreciate you watching. I guess that's all I got for now. Bears in full control. Be very cautious. Only if you are really comfortable making quick flips should you try and buy these dips, because I know there are people all over the place trying to make these flips and they end up bag holding because they didn't exit their positions. And it's just going to get worse and worse. We have a lot of time before August 1st. And the way things are going and the lack of buying leads me to believe that we're going to see a decent amount more red over the next 2 weeks. So I appreciate you watching. Hope you have a good weekend, and I'll check back in over that weekend. I appreciate everybody giving their ideas. I'm going to start organizing this video series. It's going to take me dozens and dozens of hours, so I wouldn't expect that anytime soon, maybe in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to be doing that on the weekends. Lots of fun. So thanks, everybody, again. See you soon.